Dudes on Movies podcast with your hosts, Scott Charboneau and David Lynn Miller.
Welcome to Dudes on Movies. I'm your dude, Scott.
I'm your dude, Dave.
And today we're discussing 1960's Village of the Damned, directed by Wolf Rilla and starring George Sanders and Barbara Shelley. But before we do that, let's talk about what we've been watching. Dave, what have you been watching?
I am getting an early start on Oscar season, and I saw Conclave.
Oh, baby.
Yes, I think that'll probably get some recognition. And great movie, everybody, powerful acting, and it has a lot to say about current events, as well as stuff we've been dealing with our whole lives.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know, the movie story is that the Pope has passed away, and the College of Cardinals have to get together to elect a new one. And the leading candidates have very different philosophies, and with this being election season here in the States, it sometimes becomes overly stressful for you. Because in these situations, there's always a chance people are going to elect a fascist. But try to keep that out of your mind while you're watching it, and just try to enjoy a really well-acted, well-written film.
Yeah, dude. I've heard good things about it. I've heard a few mixed opinions on it, but one thing I've heard universally is the cast is just amazing.
Yeah, you really can't beat the cast. It just, it's 12 deep.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's a lineup of Pope potentials.
Yes, and they're all potential popes.
Dude, that'd be a good name for like a band or something, the Potential Popes.
The Potential Popes, right.
Yeah, dude.
Wow, yes, exactly. Electable Cardinals.
That works too, man. The electable Cardinals. Awesome. I watched something that came out this year, but it probably won't get Oscar nominations. I mean, who knows? Maybe it will. But It was Ty West's third film in the X trilogy, MaXXXine.
Mia Goth could get some run. Who knows?
I think that's why I made my exception there. Mia Goth could get something.
Right.
I was a big fan of X and Pearl. I thought they were pretty good.
Me too.
X was really good as a slasher throwback.
Yeah.
With a really cool twist on it. And then Pearl was just an awesome kind of take on an origin story from one of the characters in the first movie. And this one kind of follows Mia Goth's character from that original film as she goes through her life in the early 80s. And there's a serial killer on the loose, and all her friends are getting sliced down, and now she's next and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know who it is. There's a lot of intrigue, and it's got a lot of influence from those early 80s slashers where there's just some random maniac killing people. I thought I would love this movie, and I didn't really like it as much as I thought. There's a reveal at the end that I had a really hard time buying. I don't know if you've seen the film and you know what I'm talking about. I'm trying not to spoil anything in case people want to watch it, but
yeah.
I didn't really love the twist reveal at the end. It could have worked, I think, if they set things up a little differently or went about it a little bit differently. It would have been better. But, I mean, it was an okay end to that trilogy. I don't like it as much as the first two films, but, if you like those movies, go ahead and watch it, everybody.
Yes.
All right, Dave. So now we're going to watch or talk about Village of the Damned.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you give everyone a synopsis?
Yes. Well, this film is based on a novel by John Wyndham called The Midwich Cuckoos, in which a strange phenomenon infects a remote English village. After a bizarre incident, the female villagers become pregnant unexpectedly. Their pregnancies then progress rapidly, and the children born from the pregnancy develop very quickly, and they form this telepathic, super intelligent hive mind with one another that gives them eerie powers. If you've never seen this movie, you're likely still familiar with it, everybody, because it's the template for every scary movie about kids ever made. You've all seen the stills with the like little toe heads and glowing eyes.
Yeah.
So everybody's familiar even if you haven't seen it. But we're gonna have a good time talking about it.
Yeah, man, this is a good one. I put it on the schedule, and I did that just because I think it's a great movie. I like things from this era, the whole like sci-fi, atomic age, space age fears. That stuff I find extremely interesting. So this was kind of right up my alley. And I watched it for the first time several years ago, and it just kind of was way better than I expected it to be. I was like, oh, kind of a cheesy, 1960s sci-fi film. It's going to be what it is, which is fine. I like that stuff.
Yeah.
But it was way better than I expected. I think it's filled with incredible intrigue from the first moment, and it really sets up a great mystery, and it really goes into a few dark places that I really like. So
yes, and like you said about how it grabs you from the first moment. I mean, like when we first are introduced to George Sanders' character in his den, I mean, the movie starts after like 30 seconds in. I mean, the plot and the mystery of it is just like right there for you. We're totally intrigued by what just happened because he's on the phone having a conversation, and he just passes out.
Yeah, I mean, the movie wastes no time, right?
Right.
It's only got 77 minutes to get us through.
That was like the shocker for me, because I'd seen the movie before, but I couldn't remember that it was like it's barely feature length.
Barely, man.
Yeah.
77.
With the credits.
Yeah. I don't know if you can even call that a feature nowadays. Could you?
I mean, I don't know.
You gotta get at least 80. I don't know
Yes.
what the guideline is.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an official guideline, but it's definitely that is rare to have a movie this short.
I'm sure there's some kind of Oscars qualification
I
for
bet
short
too,
film.
yeah.
You know,
Right.
But yeah, this one is quite short. We always talk about keep it tight, keep it under 90. You know,
Right.
that kind of thing. This does it.
Yes, and it definitely proves that you can make a really compelling story and a great movie that is not epic length. It doesn't have to be,
Right.
Sergio Leone. You could just
Yeah.
do this.
And I heard it's quite faithful to the story it's based on too.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like actually very close. There's a couple character tweaks and
Yeah.
things like that, but there's not many liberties taken with it. It's pretty true to what was written down.
That's cool.
Which is excellent.
Yeah.
And often short stories make some great movies because you're not trying to pack everything from this epic novel into 2 hours, right?
Yeah, you're right. Short stories. I mean, like you think about how long it takes you to read a 50-page story in a
Right.
book. Yeah, that would be about 2 hours most of the time. And if you can just be totally faithful to it, there's no reason to cut anything.
Yeah, especially when it's something, in my opinion at least, is this excellent.
Yes.
So,
But yeah, this opening sequence is pretty chilling. Once we leave George Sanders's den, we then go outside the house and we see all the villagers lying in the street or on the floors of their homes, which is a really effective way to open the story because we can't tell if people are dead or asleep. All
Yeah.
we saw was that George Sanders collapsed and his dog did too in front of the fire, and that's what we know. And this also features an underratedly dangerous stunt with the guy on the tractor.
I know, right?
I mean, that thing is really moving.
This farmhand is passed out at the wheel of a tractor as it's spinning in circles.
Right.
And it does a couple loops, and then it hits a tree
Oh, man.
and stops. And I mean, maybe it's a prop tree that was put in, but it looks like it was a real tree.
I know, definitely, and I think it could still be dangerous if you're running a real tractor into it.
Yeah, and you're sitting on this live tractor.
Yeah.
Spinning, and you hit this thing, and you don't know when it's coming.
And yeah, because you have to pretend that you're passed out in this seat. And yeah, you're leaving a lot up to chance if you're operating this heavy machinery with your eyes closed, slumped over.
Great stunt.
Yep.
And I know we got into the movie, but it does start with maybe 10 seconds of the camera panning into George Sanders' bedroom or whatever.
Yes.
And it's playing this idyllic music, oh, look at the life on the farm, and then snap. No, he's passed out. Everyone's passed out. The tractor's spinning in circles. What the heck just happened?
Yeah, exactly. And they give you no indication. And for the first, I'd say about 20 minutes of the movie,
Yeah.
we're trying to solve this mystery. And George Sanders, he was a big star at the time.
Yeah.
And so for him to, he's got top billing and he's seemingly dead in the first frame of the movie.
Right? Yeah.
So, it becomes Michael Gwynn's movie for the first sequence here.
Yeah, he plays Alan. He was on the other end of the phone that George Sanders was on. His character's name is Gordon.
Yes.
So Gordon was talking to Alan. Gordon passed out, and Alan's like, "Hey, Gordon, what happened? I lost you." And he's some kind of military guy.
Yes, military man.
So he goes to his colonel or whoever and says, "Hey, I'm going to go up there, and something happened up there. The phone lines might be down. I don't know."
Alan think he was a really competent guy.
He's very competent.
Yeah.
I think he was going to head up there anyway, though. I think that's what their conversation was saying.
Right.
Because I think he's the brother of Barbara Shelley,
Yes.
who is Gordon's wife,
That's
Mrs. Zellaby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is Mrs. Zellaby's brother, and he's become friends with Gordon. And,
Yeah, his brother-in-law.
Right. And yeah, he was already headed up there, but he really heads up he's like, okay, we're the military, and we should investigate what's going on. He doesn't go, well, just one of those things. He just, no, I'm going to figure out what's happening right now.
Yeah, because I know Gordon is not the kind of man who would just hang up on me.
Yes.
Or just drop the phone or something, Something is going on.
Something is amiss.
So I'm very suspicious of this.
Right.
And I guess he's right, because he drives up there and he notices like the road is just like empty, like everything's quiet, and there's a policeman riding a bicycle next to him. Actually, he like comes up on this policeman. He's like, "Oh, hey, what's going on?"
I know, it's like Pacific Blue.
Yeah, and then they see this bus up ahead that's kind of in the ditch, and we see a bunch of people just lying in this bus.
Right.
They could be dead. We have no idea. Their bodies are just like hunched over these seats, and they just crashed in here, and we don't know why. Yes,
and this police constable is named Qube. He's played by Peter Vaughn, who we just saw him when we watched The Crucible.
Oh, yeah?
He's like Daniel Day-Lewis's friend Giles Corey, the guy that Bruce Davison puts the rocks on him at the end to kill him. He dies by rock weight.
Wow.
Because he won't confess his to being a witch. That's this dude.
Dang.
Yeah.
Well, so he's riding his bike and he has to go up and check out the van. He's like, stay here, Alan. I'll go look, So he gets up there and he walks up towards the van, and as he gets close to it, he passes out too, and he just collapses on the ground.
Again, man, just it's a chilling visual to watch him just like he passes like this part of the road, and he just like that's it.
Right? Yeah, he crossed some invisible line.
Yes.
And then passed out. So Alan's like, nope, I'm going back.
Right.
He turns around because he's a smart, competent man.
Yes, that's right.
And he goes back, and then we cut to the military's putting up a perimeter around this village. Like, hey, they're like literally putting a white line around this whole place.
He calls for backup immediately. Yeah, and he figures out where Qube passed out, and he's like, okay, they paint it on the road right there. Don't cross this line.
Yeah. Apparently, it's like a 5-mile perimeter around this village in England somewhere. And they don't know what's going on. The military's all there now, like trying to figure it out. They're talking about it, and someone puts a canary like in a cage over the line, and it passes out.
Right.
And they pull it back over, and it wakes up.
Yes. So if you're like worried about cruelty using a canary to discover gas scent, like this canary is just fine as soon as it gets out of the village.
Yeah. So all those ones down in the coal mines are fine too, guys. Don't worry about it.
Right. Sure.
So now they're like, all right, let's send in a guy with a gas mask on and see what happens. And they tie a rope around him, actually.
Right.
I guess because if he's going to pass out, they're going to pull him back.
I love the intrigue and excitement of, like, this dude's mission.
Yeah,
he's got to go, like, cross that line, and, like, he's just barely doing it, and he's starting to fade as he's going across the line. And they quit. Oh, let's get him back,
Yep, and they drag him back. He actually goes out cold.
Yeah.
They drag him back. And then they have the doctor who showed up look at him. Dr. Ziller, I think his name is.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Willers, sorry.
Oh, I thought it was okay.
Yeah, Willers, played by Lawrence Naismith. And he's pretty good in this too, but he's checking on him. He's like, well, he's got a good pulse, but he's really cold.
Yeah.
So after a moment, the guy wakes up, and he's like, man, I'm freezing. And he's just kind of out of it. But he seems fine otherwise.
Right. And at this point, too, I like when Alan just starts to himself going, what could it be? He's trying to solve all this based on the only evidence he has, which is the collapsed policeman and like this dude who's cold.
Yeah. Which the cold really doesn't come to anything, does it? Now that I think about it.
I don't think anyone else talks about like lists that as a symptom.
Yeah, it just, this is it. It's gone now.
Right.
Once you're awake, that's you're cold for a minute, and that's it.
Yes.
So, but they also see an airplane flying above the village.
Uh-huh.
And if Alan's like, hey, get me the radio. And he talks to the pilot, and he's like, what do you see? And he says, like, everyone in the whole village, the whole town is just passed out. And, I mean, we kind of brushed over everyone being passed out. It takes a good few minutes. They show the whole town, like, passed out. Like, water is running in the kitchen sinks, and clothing irons are like sitting on the clothes, burning them. And
I love how there's no music.
Exactly. And the camera pans up to that clock tower on the church as it chimes the bell at 11 o'clock. And then the title card hits and everything. No music, just the bells ringing.
Yep.
It's pretty awesome. So this guy's saying he sees all that in the town, like everyone's just down. Even like the cow is down.
Yes, that cow just laying there, and like too when he gives the pilot specific instructions of like, okay, now I want you to descend, and once you start to feel yourself fading or whatever, immediately pull back up.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the guy doesn't follow his instruction.
Right. maybe it onsets too quickly, or maybe the guy's just like, I'm going to keep going.
I
or
think
he
it's
doesn't.
more the guy decides I'm going to keep going because you see him visually start to like fade a little bit,
Yeah.
and it's about like, I don't know, 10 seconds of the fade, and in that moment he should remember, like there should be like a little thought bubble with like Alan in there. Now pull up if you feel, and no, and then but that doesn't happen. He just keeps going.
Like a little Alan pops up on his shoulder and he looks over at him. Now remember, I told you to pull up.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the plane goes down and we get that, and then boom.
Yep.
A big explosion behind the tree line.
Yes. This dude is dead.
Dude, the movie's got balls at the beginning,
I know,
man. I'm like,
right.
dude, people are dying. People are crashing.
Right.
Alan just murdered this guy.
I mean, yes, like the blood's on Alan's hands and the curse.
I know they're probably both military men, just doing orders.
Oh, of course.
So
yes.
it's not his fault.
All in the line of duty,
Yeah,
I suppose.
exactly.
Right.
So that guy's dead, unfortunately. And then as soon as that guy dies, the cow wakes up. I mean, not because of the explosion or anything, just because.
Yes.
The cow gets up off the ground. So it's like, okay, the cow's up. And then everyone on that bus starts to slowly come to and get off the bus. And it's another great moment of just like, what is happening here?
Right.
Because Alan and all the other military guys there are just like, what the heck?
Yes.
Like, everyone's fine now.
And then we go like into the village and you see everybody else is rousing now, and including George Sanders. I mean, we go to inside Gordon's house and he wakes up, and then Barbara Shelley walks in and she's like, oh, like kind of holding her head like, ooh, I had a little headache or something or whatever.
Yeah,
and
sorry I didn't bring you your sandwich or something,
Yes.
is what she says.
Right.
Yeah. And he's like, well, I fell asleep too, so I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
And then they're a very intelligent couple,
Yes, they're both academics, I believe.
Yes. So they kind of discuss it, like, why did we faint? And they're saying, like, well, I'm cold, So they both realize this is quite unusual.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the two of them now.
Yes.
Alan arrives finally and reveals, like, the whole village was out. So, of course, George Sanders is very intrigued by this.
Yes, and then Alan kind of goes around the village, like, visiting people and, like, seeing how everybody's doing. And we get a lot of their testimony, and, people are coming out of their houses and, like, kind of same as, like, Barbara Shelley, like, holding their head and kind of like, oh, boy, that was something.
Yeah. Dr. Willer is, like, checking on everyone.
Uh-huh.
Like, luckily, no one was in their tub, because they would have drowned.
Yes.
And the military's taking samples, and they're going to test the soil and the iron and
Right.
stuff. Of course, George Sanders is giving the orders, like,
Oh, of
make sure
course.
you test this and that and this and that and that and this.
I love that, like, this fantasy world that movies have, in which, like, the most learned citizen in town is who everybody listens to, and which is exactly the opposite of what it's like in real life.
There's a great moment because the guy he says that to is like some, low-ranking officer or something probably,
Uh-huh.
and then Alan's like, "Don't worry, he's my brother-in-law." Or something. And then the guy's like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's fine
oh,
then.
man, it's
I'll
Alan's
take
brother-in-law.
orders from Alan's brother-in-law."
Better do what he says.
All right, Captain Alan. So yeah, the mystery is still there. They're going to try to figure it out though, and I think at one point George Sanders says something about like X-rays and outer space beams are flying through the air and
Right,
stuff. Like,
right.
A lot of these movies take these like giant leaps of logic, to explain things, and it turns out to be exactly what it is, right?
Yeah, because it's a movie and it has to be something like really
Yep,
far-fetched,
yep.
right?
Yeah, like maybe if an alien farted or something and it flew through the galaxy and hit this family, like they're just guessing.
I guess the fart would like kind of burn up in re-entry and become just like a little
It
pebble
might,
by
yeah,
the
like-
time it gets to us.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid fart, man. A little meteorite.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. But yeah, it cuts to, I guess, about 2 months later, and Mrs. Zellaby is quite happy because she's found out she's pregnant.
Yes.
She goes home and reveals to Mr. Zellaby, hey, we're going to have a baby finally.
Right, and he is like in shock in a good way.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, he kind of does this. It's a very cute scene between George Sanders and Barbara
Yeah.
Shelley, where he's like,
Yeah.
kind of like doting on her. Oh, darling, put your legs up. And,
Yeah.
can I get you something? Do you want a sandwich? And
Right.
and he's excited.
He's all excited, and it like flusters him because he doesn't really know how to react.
Right.
All he wants to do is take care of her, like
Yes.
immediately. He even admits like, I've been too focused on my work, but that's all going to change now.
Right.
So all right, there you go.
And earlier I talked about, like, just briefly George Sanders being a big star. I mean, like, he has one of the best voices in cinema.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one.
It is like there's very few like bass voices that are like this. I mean, like the most famous one is James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
I think George Sanders is like, I mean, he's not as big a star as James Earl Jones, but like, I mean, man, I could listen to him all day. Obviously, you know, All About Eve was the biggest role. Like that was the one where he won the Oscar. And I mean, like Addison DeWitt is an iconic character. And if you haven't seen All About Eve, everybody, me and Scott just talked about how much that movie rules off the air about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, dude, it's so good.
Right.
I need to watch it again. I imagine it will be on the show at some point, you know? I mean,
no doubt about it.
Dude, yeah, it's an excellent one.
Yes.
But yeah, so she's pregnant and excited. Then we cut to a young woman at the doctor's office crying with the upsetting news that she's pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And she can't believe it because she's never had sex.
Right.
That's what she's telling the doctor, of course. And I don't think he believes her.
Yep.
Because how would that happen?
Yes, there's only been one immaculate conception, you know.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah.
Anakin Skywalker. So, and she's 17, right, too? Like, the doctor even says something about, like, I know, like, what people are going to say.
I wasn't prepared for that joke.
Really? Wow. Okay. Anyway.
Man. Yeah.
So, yeah, she's pregnant. And then my favorite is when we cut to this other woman in a house and her husband's, like, really angry.
Uh-huh.
He's, like, sitting there all silent, just fuming in silence as this other man is, like, talking about how, like, awesome this stuff is.
Yes.
And he just got back from overseas, apparently, and his wife is pregnant, and he thinks it's this other guy.
And, you know,
why wouldn't he?
It's a natural, suspicion to have. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and she's all upset because of the tension that's there.
Yes.
And he storms out of this room. And, man, it's like, dude, the whole village is pregnant.
I know. And I like that the mystery of all these pregnancies that happened without women actually being with anybody.
Yeah.
Like, it reaches, the doctor figures it out pretty quickly, and he kind of spreads the word amongst the villagers that, like, yeah, this happened.
Yeah.
Several women are pregnant unexpectedly, and there's no father.
Right. They even questioned the priest because they're assuming all the women have confessed to him about this. And he does say, yeah, there's 4 more at least,
right.
You know? And, yeah, every woman in this village who is capable of conceiving a child is now pregnant.
Yes.
And it's been 2 months exactly since that event.
Right.
So they're kind of figuring out right away that this is linked to what happened.
Yep.
No doubt about it.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, no doubt about it. It's completely like the event that happened would be, even without the pregnancies, would probably be the biggest event in everybody's life.
Yeah.
It's something you'd never forget.
No, it's so strange because what could it have been?
Right.
You know, some kind of gas or something?
And it affected all of us?
Yeah, like the whole entire town. And now these specific women are affected in another new way.
Yep.
That is quite terrifying, honestly,
mm-hmm.
because this can't happen. You can't get pregnant like this.
No, and as they'll find out, it gets even stranger.
Was it just like a sperm wave that hit? It's space sperm.
It is just a space load. Yes.
Alien just jizzed on the planet.
Pretty much that's what happened. And I mean, like, they can't say that in 1960 like we just did, but, you know, that
There's
is...
just spunk everywhere. Come on. Space spunk.
Yes, I guess you could have called the movie Space Spunk.
It's quite a catchy title.
Right.
I don't know if it would pass the ratings board at all.
Not back then.
I mean, it was the 60s, so they didn't even have that, you know? Production code.
Yeah, that's true.
They were too
there
dumb
was no
probably to
ratings
realize
board,
what
right.
space spunk means.
And, yeah, you know, and also in the UK, they were a little bit more progressive, so they could have, like, said something, you know, maybe not quite as
yeah, I don't know in the
vulgar
UK
as Space
if
Spunk.
You could name your movie Spunk.
No,
but,
I don't think so.
But yeah, it's a good title for sure.
Good title. Let's not get carried away.
Oh my God. But yeah, man, the mystery though, in all seriousness, is extremely intriguing still. It's like,
Of
wow,
course.
what's next? This is insane.
And what we find out next is that, like, the pregnancies are developing rapidly, and like as the doctor examines the women, he finds that there's this one X-ray that they put up on the and it's like a spine and a pelvis, and he's like looking at it going, yeah, just as I suspected. I'm like, what is he looking at? And it's supposed to be like an obvious, like fully grown child after like in the first trimester.
Yeah, like it's been like 4 or 5 months, and
Yes.
it's like at a 7-month growth rate or something.
That's what it is. Yeah, exactly.
But he says like, the crazy thing is it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's like damn near perfect.
And the only problem with it is, like I said, of the X-ray itself, it doesn't show what he's saying.
I know,
is
right?
there.
Like it looks like a xenomorph on its side. Like,
and it's even hard to make that out.
yeah, there's just like a spine going across a rib cage a little bit. Yeah.
Right. I don't know how he's, and like, I mean, geez, in a real, you don't look at a woman's pregnancy in an X-ray either. That's part of it.
In the 60s, is that what you did though? Like I don't know what they did.
I don't know
in
what
the
they
50s,
had.
60s,
I mean, but even if that's all you had was an X-ray machine, it doesn't tell you anything. You just look at it for days and it's not there.
I mean, this woman got hit by some space rays, so I mean, what's another X-ray? I guess.
No, it's not about the dangers of the radiation. It's more just that like you're looking at an X-ray of someone. You're looking at their bones. It doesn't show inner.
You can't
organs.
see the rest. I know what you mean.
Right,
But
yeah.
But I guess as far as bone structure goes, like it's perfect.
It is perfect spine. It's a fine spine.
It's very great.
Right.
It's one of the best spines he's ever seen, apparently. Except for the other children he's x-rayed, which are the exact same.
Yes.
They're all extremely perfect and growing. Maybe these are xenomorphs, dude, like now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, it's perfect. George Sanders runs back home and tells his wife, hey, the baby's perfect. It's fine. You don't have to worry anymore. And she's like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I know. You fucking liar.
That's not why I'm worried.
Right.
I have an alien baby.
And on top of that, it's not true. What he says, it's perfect. Everything's great. We're going to have a baby. No, dude, something's wrong.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
But it is a good scene because she does say, like, she's like, I'm having a baby. Whose baby?
Right.
Where did it come from?
Yeah.
She's like really upset and just spelling it out. You idiot, Gordon. This is not ours.
Yeah. Right.
Stop being all excited.
I know. And I mean, like, I understand why he's doing what he's doing because he's trying to make, like put her at
He's trying to
ease.
comfort his wife.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just that, like, he could be a little less obvious about lying about the situation.
He is excited to have a child, though.
Yeah.
Like, for real. They did say earlier, like, they're a little bit older of a couple.
Right.
He's still, like, 40 years older than her, probably.
Probably
But,
so, right.
but he's excited. He's in a later stage of life, and he's going to have his first child.
Yes.
And he's extremely excited about it.
It's very charming, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Mm-hmm. And we see, like, the other men in the village all upset about it, too. Like,
right.
There's a great scene when they're all drinking at the bar in silence, just like the town pub,
Yep.
We follow one guy, like, walk out of his house just, like, all somber, and he goes down the street, and takes him a minute, and he finally gets there and sits down, and he says, I hope that none of them lives.
Man, it's really... like, he's just sitting there at the bar stewing about it for a minute.
Staring into the camera.
Yes.
Not directly, but right in his face.
Right. And, like, there's darts being played around him and like, other, men just kind of, like, looking at their ales.
Yeah.
And, him to say, I hope none of them live. So you're going to go kill all the babies when, like...
I don't know if he's ready to kill them, but he just hopes they don't make it.
I mean, yeah. So, or that they're gonna. He wishes like stillborn, like bringing a pregnancy to term and then having to, like, the baby die in your arms.
Yeah, dude.
That's a chilling thought.
I mean, he could call Vera Drake, I guess, and get her on the case.
Vera would have this thing solved toot sweet.
Yes, there would be no issues.
Yes.
Everything be good.
Right.
Dandy.
She helps girls out.
Imelda Staunton would be great in this movie.
Yeah, that's true. Right. Yep, 15-year-old Imelda
We ain't doing this in no back alley, Dave.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the whole town is kind of leery on all this stuff.
Yes.
And they should be.
Understandably so.
Yes.
This is a weird phenomenon, like, and it's happening to everybody. And when the babies do arrive, of course, they're all born on the same day.
Yep.
And they all have similar physical characteristics.
Man, it's so creepy. Just you saying that they're all born on the same day like gave me the chills. And I knew that's what happened, but just thinking about that is so unusual.
I know.
So strange.
I wonder.
It's like they've all incubated like at the same.
Yeah.
Like in the same pod or something.
Right.
It's so weird.
They probably all were born like in the same minute, even. Like
probably.
It was just this like this tactical
like gremlins popping out of
I
Gizmo's
know.
back.
Exactly.
Dude.
Exactly.
But yeah, the doctor's just like, man, it's been a long night. You know, they're all like over 10 pounds, and they've all got these strange eyes. That's what he keeps saying.
Yes. Just wait, Doc.
They're all great and perfect and healthy, but they have strange eyes.
Oh man.
Yeah. Doctor, that's not perfect and healthy.
It is not perfect. No, if someone has like glowing, like eyes that it's a shade that you just is not in nature.
No,
and you can even see it in black and white.
Yeah, it's just this like piercing, you know, like you see someone with really piercing like ice blue eyeballs.
Yes.
It's almost like that, but it's like pure white almost.
Right.
Like the color in the eye is like a really white color.
Yes.
Doesn't match like the white of your eye, but because you can still make out the pupil and like the color part and everything, but it's just like this piercing color. Yes.
And you know, we then see like there's a chilling shot, another chilling moment where like I think it is David in the crib.
Probably.
Yes. Because it is because it's in their house
with the dog when the dog growls. Yeah.
Right.
The dog just gets really scared and starts growling.
Right.
Like it's going to attack.
It's the opposite of what a dog always does when a baby's born. Like whenever you have a baby in the house, the dog does everything they can to protect it and starts, you know, kind of nudging it and everything and
sniffing it.
Yeah.
And,
right.
Little kisses and
yes,
stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, there is some threat here. Yep. I must protect the family.
Right.
Like you can even see the dog's like the hair on its back of his neck is getting all bristled and stuff. This dog is terrified of something, and it's looking right at that bassinet.
I know, and it's also like we talk about dog acting sometimes. Like some of the best dog acting I've ever seen happens right after like George Sanders tells him, "Hey, knock it off, come on, you know, you behave yourself." And the dog goes into the corner like behind where they're the changing table, and he does this perfect like little curl up. And
okay.
He's a big dog, and he like makes himself like half the size. I don't know how they got him to do this, but it was a very well trained dog.
Like, so you're thinking like he's curled up in fear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if I can't scare this thing away, I better hide.
Yes.
Man, dude.
Right.
But yeah, when that dog starts growling, I mean, talk about chills. It's
I know.
Like, man, something bad is here.
Yeah, and I mean, they know all the signs that they're experiencing it. They don't know what's to come. But like, so a dog growling, maybe that wouldn't like send up such red flags for them. But like, they have to know,
right? Yeah,
you know, I mean, they're in for something.
Exactly, and having the fear of an animal as a device to get the audience's fear to go up is, you know, it's very common in film, and it's
of course,
a super effective thing because I think everyone in real life has experienced that. You know, you might be sitting around and then all of a sudden your dog's looking at the window and kind of growling. And you're like, well, what the hell's out the window? You know?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because they are an alarm system, so yeah.
Yep. So we get to see some of their development now over the next, I guess, several months. They are a couple of months old and they look like they're, you know, like 2 or 3 years old.
Yes.
And they're like playing with blocks and spelling their names out with the blocks and just extremely fast development.
Yes, and the way they have the child actors play their characters from age 1 to about age 12 is an odd choice, but I think it works because it adds to the uncanny nature of the situation.
Yeah.
There's a moment like a little bit later when they go to someone else's house with the box, you know, the challenge box.
Yeah.
And that lady comes down the stairs carrying that boy. And it looks so unnatural.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be an 11-month-old, but the kid is clearly like 6.
Yeah.
And like he's just like hanging and dangling there like a baby would because he is a baby, but he's huge. And it just like you almost can't look at it because it's just gross.
Yeah. And I don't know, like They all seem to have like slightly bigger heads. Did you notice that?
Yes, they do.
I don't know if it's just the haircut makes it look like that.
Yeah.
Or did they have some kind of prosthetic? I wish I would have looked this up.
I mean, I don't know if it was a prosthetic. I think they just found 12 big-headed kids.
I guess so.
Yeah.
And they gave them stupid haircuts
They
and made
did.
them look weird.
I know. Like the girls look good because like, it looks like just a nice shag with bangs. But yeah, David and the rest of the boys, they all have this little like Pete Rose hair.
It's not good.
No,
man.
it's not.
Especially with their mannerisms. It's
Oh
like,
my
oh,
gosh.
come on, guys.
I know.
Stop it.
I know. And
Just
these are,
stop.
Like, and they found like some of the best child actors too.
They're all pretty good. David is excellent.
Yes, Martin Stevens as David. I mean, like, I wish I knew some of the other characters' names, but they're never named in the film. You don't find out them until the end credits.
I don't think anyone even really talks. Maybe one or two of them say something. I can't even remember.
Yeah,
because
there's a couple of sounds here and there, but yeah, David does most of the talking.
David does all the talking, and it's because they don't have to speak. Only one has to speak because they have a hive mind. Jesus Christ.
You know? and like the whole thing with this puzzle box is that like George Sanders has this it's the one questionable like ethnic thing in the movie where he says something about like Oriental ingenuity or what. I'm like, oh, excellent, 1960.
Thank you.
Yes.
There's also some great I'm gonna slap my hysterical wife moments in this too.
God,
yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, dude. He just freaking Cary Grants this woman.
I can't believe that was and he just backhands her.
She's like freaking out in the bedroom because apparently she was giving a hot bottle to David.
Yes.
And it was too hot. So we don't know what happened. She's just screaming. And doesn't she have her hand in the hot water?
Yes.
So she's freaking out. So he comes in, smacks her because that'll solve everything. And then she, she calms down, woman,
And it works.
Yeah, it works.
That's what
it was
sucks.
a good technique in 1960.
I can't, and like he doesn't say anything about it. He just like gives her a slap, and then, "Are you all right, darling?"
Yeah. What happened?
Yes, okay, got it.
But yeah, apparently David didn't like it, and the nurse said he looked at her, and then all of a sudden this happened.
Yes,
he like glared at this woman.
And then like he's given this challenging thing, and Alan comes over and like Gordon wants to demonstrate for him like David's hyper intelligence, so he gives him this little box, and there's a piece of chocolate in there, and it's a series of like obstacles, kind of like a Rubik's
puzzle cube,
yes,
or puzzle box. You gotta move one side and then
right.
twist it, and then like you slide this other lock, and there's another hidden door that opens,
right.
that kind of thing.
It would be a challenge for like even most adults.
This is the Hellraiser Qube.
It is essentially, yes. You expect like Pinhead to come out at any moment.
I'll take Pinhead over these little creeps,
dude. Okay.
I'm telling you.
I know what you're saying, but I have different feelings about the children.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
We'll get to it.
Okay,
yeah,
all right, yeah.
I'll tell you. I'll give you a preview. I find the Cenobites scarier than the children. I'll tell you that.
Well, me too.
Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
Me too. But he solves the puzzle, and then they go to this other child's house, and they just solve the puzzle without knowing how to do it. And they realize, okay, you teach one of them, and they all know it. Crazy, man.
Yes, and there's a moment too where like when Gordon tries to hand the other like alien child the puzzle box, his older brother intercepts it and like tries to make off with it, and like whenever the children do their mind control thing, there's this like sound effect that happens, and it's the first time I think we hear it because like the little boy looks at the older brother and they do the sound effect, and like the older brother just kind of like stops, and he's like hypnotized in the spot and comes back and gives him the puzzle back.
Yeah, it's like that 1950s sci-fi laser ray gun type sound. Like
yes, I like it.
Yeah,
I like it a lot, and I love every instance of it in this movie because like I know that like shit's going down.
I love it too because they get a close-up of the child's face and he's like staring straight ahead, and then they superimpose like special effect eyeballs over the eyes that are already terrifying, and he's like they like glow, and then you hear that's not the exact sound, but it's got the same kind of,
it's a higher pitch than that, but
energy to it.
The Flash Gordon
gun
noise
sound.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they do it a lot in this movie, and when it happens, nothing good comes out of it.
I know, and from here, like we start to see like kind of it's not a montage, but it's like essentially the children are now growing up.
Yeah, it kind of cuts to them. They're like 12 now or
Yes.
something, and it's probably only been 8 months.
Yes, it's been they're essentially like aging like 6 years for every year, and there's a moment where I think like 6 of them are walking down the street, and they're in like a kind of like the way geese fly.
It's a flock.
Yes,
right.
And they have the same weird overcoats on.
Yeah.
They're dressed like Marianne Faithfull for some reason, and
Yeah.
they just like the other village kids are playing soccer, and they decide to like mess with these kids, and they throw the ball at one of the kids' heads, and the alien kids all turn around.
Yeah.
And the noise comes, and like it's too early in the film for them to actually like
Use the power.
yes,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
and their targets are children, so they just that
Right.
probably wouldn't fly back then.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, 'cause that one girl with the long hair
Uh-huh.
got hit in the back of the head, and they all turn around together and look at this crazy kid. Why would you throw this ball at them? Because you know what they're going to do to you.
you have like observed them at school,
Yeah.
presumably, or even at home.
Well, okay, so I'm going to guess that no incidents have happened yet.
That's true.
Because we kind of get to see that uncovered. As
Well,
we
yeah,
go.
right.
But the kid was this close to getting zapped with those eyeballs and stuff,
right.
David says, "No, Nancy, leave them alone." And then they all turn in unison and walk away.
Yes.
In these like the black overcoats and that bleached blonde haircut,
Uh-huh.
and they just like are. Man, it's quite something.
I know.
And,
I love it.
and that kid's mom comes out and he's like, "What are you doing? Get in here! I told you never to play with those children."
Hey, good advice, Mom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Never play with the alien kids.
Don't play with them. Don't look at them because like we don't know what they are.
So the kids, they're definitely creepy.
Right.
They go to a shop, and the shopkeepers are hurrying up real quick to get them out real fast. And
Right.
David even says like, "Hey, we know you want us to leave." And the shopkeeper's like, "Well, I never said that." And he's like, "Well, you didn't. You were thinking it."
Right.
So we won't be back. We'll send someone else next time.
It's like
They-
they're really sophisticated.
They
and,
are.
And I like that they recognize this shopkeep doesn't like us because we're different. And we're going to tell you we know that you're thinking that, and that's an ugly thing, and we won't be back.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that interaction.
Nothing at all, but it is unusual. He knows what you're thinking, right? Like,
Yes.
I think that the kids do understand that they are different, like you said,
Right.
and that it is a perfectly acceptable reaction for a human to react that way.
It is. And I don't mean to sound so in the tank for the kids, but it's just, I mean, I definitely want to defend my own species, but I think that, like, David disclosing that he can read your thoughts is very courteous.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if somebody had mind control power and they could also read minds, I mean, they generally keep it to themselves because they could rule the world with it.
Yeah, they don't hide anything really from anyone.
Right.
They're pretty open. They don't reveal everything just willingly, I guess, but they're not afraid to talk about, all this stuff with the normal townsfolk.
Because, like, we eventually see that Gordon has been tasked with, after he has that meeting with all the top brass from the military.
I think that's like the next scene or
Yes.
something. Like,
yes, he has to go, like, to visit the Home Secretary.
Yeah, and they're talking about, like, well, what are we going to do?
Yes.
And it's revealed that there were other communities around the Earth where the same event happened.
Right.
Like maybe another half dozen or so. And in most locations, the kids were murdered. I think only one community survived, somewhere in Russia somewhere, I think.
It was in Russia, yes.
And the kids are basically doing the same thing.
Yes.
So the British command is worried, what's going to happen, These kids are becoming almost dangerous.
And Gordon proposes to the gathered people
There's
at
like
the meeting.
scientists
Yes.
and military brass, yeah.
Right.
So
he suggests that he can like take them on. He'll be their teacher because he's a professor, and he'll like they can go to a separate school, and he'll preside over their lessons.
Right, because they want to do something. They want to like lock them up or
Yeah.
get rid of them because there was a report that there was a kid who drowned while swimming.
Yeah.
And this kid was like an excellent swimmer, and they think that the kids caused the other kid to drown.
Right.
They're afraid that they're going to use these powers to do far greater things than that.
Yes.
Bad things.
And if they let them continue to develop, then God only knows what kind of powers they'll develop.
Right. And I think right before we get to the conference, even Gordon and Alan are having a discussion about, they both view the children differently.
Yes.
Alan thinks that these kids, they're just inherently bad. And Gordon believes otherwise. He's like, children aren't born that way. They have to learn it. So, it's nature versus nurture, really.
Yes.
So Gordon wants to try to help them.
Which, once again, is something I've always believed about children, is that, like, I don't think children are born with morals and ethics. I mean, you have to teach them these
I agree.
things,
Yeah, they have to be taught that.
Right.
There's a great line where Gordon says, like, we have to teach them. And Alan responds with, what if you can't teach them? It's a pretty good
of course.
response. Like, hey,
yeah.
and it makes sense. Like,
yes.
Well, what if we can't?
Then well, let's try first.
Yeah.
And if we can't, then yes, this is an unnatural thing.
Yes,
and
exactly.
maybe they'll have to be destroyed.
Yep. And Gordon's kind of hoping that these kids can solve all the problems we're facing as the human race. Like, because they're so intelligent and smart and have these capabilities that we've never seen or experienced. Imagine what they can do to progress science. And he said, we'll learn 100 years of science in 1 year.
Yes.
So he's really hopeful that this will change the course of the planet.
Right.
Everything will get better. Of course, not everyone agrees with that.
Yeah. Yeah. He's thought of as like, he thinks this is a blessing, and he's the only one. But the rest of the top brass there, they give him a chance, and they let him be the kid's teacher for a while.
Right, yeah. And it's also important to note, like, he's the only one there who's actually a father of one of the children.
Oh, that's true, yes.
Like, no one else is.
Yeah,
So
David is his son.
They think it's clouding his judgment.
Right, yes.
And he says, well, maybe it is, but still.
Right.
He would feel this way even if not. And I
Right.
believe that, too. Like, just the way this man has been, presented, this character has been displayed to us. Like, he's the kind of man who has got these very strong, positive, good moral beliefs.
Yes.
Except for, his wife,
I still can't believe that. I just because it's presented as a thing you should do.
That's just how it goes, man,
And
right?
It sucks,
yeah,
man.
so, but yeah, he's given 1 year to try to, like, tame these children.
Yes. And we cut to like their studies, and the kids are all gathered in this house, and he's got this chalkboard behind him with all these equations on it and everything, and it's he's teaching them trigonometry, and they're essentially like 10 years old, and they completely understand it. And David is doing all the talking, and he's like teasing Gordon about, but what he wanted to say but didn't.
Yeah.
Because he can read his thoughts.
Yeah. And then Gordon starts to press that point. He's like, well, how deep can you read into my mind?
Right.
Like, do you get the thought process? Like, what do you see? And David goes on to say, like, well, we can see everything that's in the front of your mind. Like, we haven't developed the capability to read what's beyond that. Not yet, at least.
Right.
But we will eventually.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's saying it in that just very kind of calm, calculated cadence he has, and it's very clear and to the point.
Yes, Martin Stevens has this like posh Moppet voice that I don't even know if that's how he talked in real life, but that's how he sounds in this movie, where it's like his diction is incredible. And it's in this very I don't want to call it a strange voice because it's just what people sound like, but it's unnerving because it's coming from a little kid.
Yeah, with those eyes that'll penetrate you.
Yes.
And yeah, it's very suiting because you don't expect a child to be speaking that way,
Right.
like with that kind of intelligence.
And there's one other kid in the group who like they kind of feature him a little bit too. I think he has really piercing eyes and kind of like a severe look on his face. He's got like black eyebrows too, which is like in contrast with his wig is really striking.
That's odd that the eyebrows, he's got like Eugene Levy eyebrows and then that bleached blonde hair.
I know. It's a real nice contrast.
It's excellent.
Yeah.
So this is a great scene where he's trying to like kind of dive deeper in understanding how these children work.
Yeah.
You know, like what are they capable of? And like David kind of sees through what's happening. He thinks that he's just trying to find out like what their end game is what David says. And even if George Sanders isn't thinking that as his main thing, like I need to figure out what their goal is, like it's something in his mind that the kids have identified.
Right.
You know, like it's there.
Right.
You know? And there's even a great line at one point where he says like, "You're not afraid of us," which is really cool.
Yeah.
That might be later.
No, I think it is in this session. He even says like, "Yeah, you're not afraid of us." He makes that very clear.
Yeah.
And he's even complimentary about it.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot about like who David is as a character, and also he recognizes there's at least one human being who is not reacting in just total abject terror to every move they make.
And it's his dad.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Right.
I mean, that could be a big part of it too. It's my child, you know? I'm not afraid of him.
And he addresses him as father. He respects like the connection, whatever it means.
And it's so good every time he says that too. I just love it because both of them know that he's not his father.
Yes.
But he still respects, the formality of it.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Right.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Dave, before we go, why don't we take a quick break here for a little word from our sponsor.
There you go.
What's up, dudes? Our 250th episode is coming this December, and since it's around Christmas time, we decided to do something different.
That's right. Instead of one normal episode about a Christmas-themed movie...
Which we technically already did back in July with that god-awful Christmas shoes.
That's right. This is instead going to be a very special episode of Dudes on Movies in which we break down Christmas films from multiple genres, and in the process joke around some about the holiday.
That's right, and everybody, we think you're going to like this one a lot, so tune in on December 23rd and celebrate in style with us, and we'll see you then. Dave, we're getting closer to January, and you know what that means, don't you?
Yes, I do. It's everyone's favorite time of year, Dudes on Demand.
That's right. Every January, we ask for your help, everybody, because our recording schedule is made up of only listener requests. That means you guys program the show.
Yes, and we'd like to get an early start this year. We'll be promoting this on our social media accounts, so if you have a movie you want us to review, please respond to us on those posts or email us at dudesonmovies@gmail.com.
That's right, and we always love doing this so much, so please send us your requests, and as always, thank you so much for listening. All right, Dave, we're back.
Yes.
And it's time to talk about the kids committing murder.
I hoped we'd get here, yes.
Yeah, their kids are all walking down the street, and they're about to cross the street, and the one, like, long-haired blonde girl kind of gets in the middle of the road, and this car comes, like, barreling down the road and actually, like, touches her. Like, it doesn't knock her over or run her over or anything, but is able to stop and, like, just, like, bump her a little bit.
Yes.
And that really kind of angers all the children.
Right. And, the motorist eventually leaves the scene. But as they go away, they're heading toward a brick wall, and the children activate their mind control, and they cause this person to kill themselves by running in. Yes, that's right. There it is. There it is.
And this car just kabooms into this wall.
I love the fiery crash that this person like ends up in when they were going about 20 miles an hour.
And I really like the shot, too, because the camera's kind of like behind the car as it like peels off and goes down the road, but it doesn't cut. We just stay with that car and see it impact that brick wall, which is about 50 yards away.
Right.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yes, it is.
And the kids are just standing there in unison, and Mrs. Zellaby has seen this. So David's mom.
Yes, and there's like a town hall meeting where everybody comes to think about what just happened and talk about it and what's to be done with these children.
Yeah.
And they're testifying and people are giving their thoughts on what's going on. And, it's determined that this was not their fault.
Yeah.
I don't know how they reached that conclusion.
I don't know, but the kids are there.
Yeah.
And we don't get like the laser eye effect on them, but they're looking at the mom and everyone. So are they controlling what people are thinking or doing?
Well, I mean, I think that like maybe they probably could control Mrs. Zellaby because she'd be the one who would testify that, yeah, she saw these kids cause this guy to crash.
Yeah.
And I mean, they probably can like activate their powers without their eyes glowing and without that scary music, ensuing.
And then the judge like rules that he was like drunk or something.
Yeah,
I don't know what he
drunk,
says.
right.
It's like he says, and of course he was drunk naturally and like drove off in a fit,
Right.
Like, of course, there's no other explanation.
He has not been paying attention like since these children arrived in the village, apparently.
Yeah, I always love that little touch when people think they're like absolutely right.
Of course.
They like, obviously, they throw that in,
Yes, right.
No, of course not obviously, dude.
I know.
These kids did something.
And only an idiot talks that way, like who speaks in absolutes all the time, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So at this point, someone in the crowd at this hearing stands up, and it's this man who's all frantic, and he yells like, "They did it! The kids did it!" And he storms out, and we see him like maybe a few moments later. He's like outside. He has a rifle in his hand, and he's gonna get these kids, dude. So he's waiting like behind a tree to get the kids when they come around the corner.
Yeah.
But luckily, like Gordon and Mrs. Zellaby and Alan are walking ahead, and they notice him, and they're like, "Dude, what are you doing?
Right.
Think about this. You're dead if they see you.
Yep.
You better get out of here."
And I love, like, Mrs. Zellaby's like full on, I think she's like full on just like, yeah, what you just said. And like, that's the conclusion they come to. They don't say, "Oh, how dare you kill children." They're like, "Wait a minute. No, if they see you with that gun, you're fucking dead, dude."
Yeah. And he's like, "Oh shit, you're right."
Right.
Right. So he tries to leave.
But it's too late.
The kids see him running away with that gun. And then you get the...
I wish we could actually do it.
I know,
I mean,
right?
Because,
Yeah.
it's a fantastic noise that I wish... I mean, I know you can't use it in modern films, but, like, it's just so cool.
Yeah, it's that Ed Wood sound effect,
I know. There's, like, theremin in there somewhere.
It's good.
I mean, yeah.
But, yeah, they see him, and they all stare at him, and then he stops running and turns around. He has that gun, and we get it's such an intense shot here, like a scene where you see him, like, pulling that gun into a certain position, and he has it upright and then puts the barrel under his chin, and the camera goes down the barrel of the gun to his hand as he's putting his finger on the trigger.
Right.
And the music is just kind of getting, I guess, is it music or is it the sound effect? Something is like swelling up here.
Yeah.
I can't remember because we said there's like no music near the beginning. I think
Right.
there's a little bit of music though. But
No, I don't think there is any music, but
Okay.
I think it is just like, I can't remember the exact sound effect that's happening
But
in this scene, but it is...
it's
like,
building.
It's a good accompaniment to whatever's happening here.
Right. And it cuts to like the other three people who are there who they tried to stop it.
Yes.
But one of the kids turns, I think it's that other boy.
Right.
And he just like looks at Gordon and the rest of the people, and they stop and just have to stand there and watch.
And the weird thing is, though, I think he caused... So we've been calling Barbara Shelley Mrs. Zellaby. Her name is Anthea.
Anthea, yes.
So Gordon and Anthea and Alan, they're standing there, and I think what they end up with is like they're given like a comatose curse.
Yeah, because they don't realize what has happened till
Right.
they're broken out of this curse.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're standing there like just kind of stationary, looking at what's going on, but they're not seeing it. And it's only until after the guy kills himself that they kind of snap out of it, and they go and they just see the aftermath.
Yeah. The music or the sound effects swell up, and then it cuts away, and you hear bam.
Right.
Like he blew his own head off, man.
Yes.
These kids are insane.
I mean, yeah, and look, they killed someone who almost ran them down with their car,
Yeah.
which I don't think that was intentional, that person, when they almost hit the kid.
Right.
This guy was trying to kill them.
Right. I mean, he deserved it more than the other guy, right?
Yes.
And probably more so than that kid who was swimming in the lake, right?
Yes.
Like,
right.
so I think one thing I do love about the movie, why I find it so interesting, is because they go to these lengths. These kids are actually brutal.
I know.
You know, and the film doesn't shy away from it. Especially something around 1960, it still could, you know, the 60s kind of broke away with a lot of the old traditions and really opened the doors to less traditional stuff and more taboo stuff, right?
Yes.
So I really love that this is presenting that kind of thing. We get to see cold-blooded murder.
Right.
With, they're not holding back, you know, like they're not showing the head explode or anything, but they're not shying away from the fact that these kids just made that guy blow his own head off.
I know.
Yeah, we wouldn't have seen that before, and I just think it's so great.
And I just, I did too, man. And I love the shots of them as the group, just like staring at their target, and that sound comes in, and their eyes glow, and to watch the victims all do things to themselves.
Yeah,
you know, the kids don't like they're so far beyond. I don't know. I guess I'm just. I find it so amazing when people have mind control.
Mind control's great.
I just look at it and I'm like, you know, imagine being able to do whatever you wanted just by thinking of it.
Dude, we just did The Naked Gun, and there's mind control in that movie, too. That's insane.
That's true, right.
A little different
a
technique.
jokier version,
Yeah.
right, yes. And, I mean, I guess just like the idea of, like, especially having it be children who don't, like, maybe fully understand, like, the consequences of everything.
Right, yeah.
I think these kids probably are a little bit more advanced, but for the most part, yeah, they're still, like, they're essentially 3 years old.
Right, yeah, like, kids haven't learned, like we even said earlier, they don't have their, like, morals completely developed or, you know, grounded. So, like, when they have some kind of an immense power, it's extremely easy for them to abuse it.
Yes.
And even in cases not even realize they are. Or
Right,
realize what's wrong about it.
That's why 3-year-olds, like, give you sass. And I mean, because they have no clue that, like, or they say really hurtful shit to you.
Yeah, dude.
You know, because they don't
They're
know.
harsh, man.
Right.
The terrible threes.
Yeah, that's right.
They suck.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, man, I can't believe this guy killed himself right there. And then as the three of the other adults there, the main characters, they come to and they realize what had happened.
Right.
They're in total shock and disbelief that it actually happened.
Yes, now it's major.
Now it's really major, and Alan has a phone call with the general and is like, yeah, this is what happened. And then the general tells Alan, you know, hey, the Russians had to nuke the town because the kids got out of hand. We're going to have to do something.
To nuke the town?
Yeah.
It's, wow.
Yeah. They're like, Gordon, you have failed. We need to take a different tactic. Which kind of sucks, because now it's like, yeah. I mean, I guess you can say Gordon failed, maybe, but like, I don't know. How much time has passed? Has it been a whole year? I mean,
yeah, it has.
Okay.
Yeah, because they've essentially, like, gotten to like age 10 to 12, and I think they're aging, like, you know, I think I might have said it's like 4 years per 1 year or whatever. So it's been a little while.
Okay.
And yeah, you meant like 1 year since they gave him the mission.
Yeah. Has his time been used up?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think
Right.
it's probably been a month or two.
Yes.
That's how it feels to me, at least.
Yes.
But they're like calling it early. They're like, nope, a year is way too long. We'll all be dead by then.
And I mean, the overkill of, like, nuking the town. I mean, like, I
don't know if I'd call it overkill. I think it conveys that the level of threat these kids had called for a nuclear strike.
I understand we're yes, this is unprecedented, I admit. Yes. It's just that, like, I know that in 1960, obviously, the whole world was, we were always under the threat of nuclear war. Everybody dreaded it so much. And, like, it was used as a device in many films of, like, you know, this is what can happen. And in this one, they're like, yeah,
Right.
it happened. Yeah, the Russians did it.
Right. Later, though, like, Gordon does say, we can't send the troops in because they'll just turn them on each other.
That was awesome.
Which is great. maybe Russia did try that or something, and they were like, dude, we can't even get close to these kids. We got to go to vaporized town.
I forgot about I forgot about that particular aspect that you just maybe the Russians did that.
And traditional bombs would only get a certain radius,
That's right.
So let's just clear the land.
Yes,
Dave.
we got to Oppenheimer this thing. Yes,
dude. Who knows? Maybe these kids like nuclear radiation.
Well, now that would be an awesome twist if like the radiation only made them more powerful.
They were made from like nuclear space sperm.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
It makes sense.
Right.
I mean, it's the only explanation.
That is the only explanation.
Obviously. It's nuclear jizz.
Obviously.
So Gordon is just like, man, this isn't good. And we cut to, again, the pub, and all these men are in the pub. And they are riled up.
Yeah.
They're like, we're not letting this happen. They killed our friend. They killed whoever, and they're doing all this. We got to stop them.
Yes.
So we get a mob, a real mob, lighting torches and stuff, going for these children.
Right.
They're going to Frankenstein them.
And the comeuppance these guys get is so satisfying. And I think the movie wants you to be satisfied by it, too.
Yeah.
Like, even though they're setting up the kids as, like, weird and evil, you want these guys to die.
Yeah, because we don't want to see we don't want to see children hurt.
Of course.
Like, naturally, it's a human instinct. You don't want to see a child harmed, right? Even if they are, evil space beings, right?
Yes.
But the way the men are going about it is like, we're taking action. We're going to murder these children,
Right. So they come to the house and where the kids are doing their lessons, and the children hear them coming.
Yeah.
And David very calmly gets up and looks out the window, and then looks back at his fellow children and is like, I got this.
It was the other creepy kid, like on lookout out the window.
Oh, you're right.
And then he looks back, and
Yes.
David gets up.
Yes.
No sounds.
Right.
They all are just communicating through their mind, which makes it so creepy.
Yes.
David stands up. He's like the de facto leader, right?
Sure.
It seems that way.
He's the one that talks.
So he goes to the front door and is standing there just on the threshold with like the light silhouetting behind him as this mob is standing in the front yard carrying these bales of straw that they've just put together and lit on fire.
That's a weird weapon. They have like,
I think they're just going to throw it in the house and stuff.
But that's not really a bomb. That's just straw that's on fire. It's going to like get to your hands.
I don't think they
before
were going to use a bomb. They were just going to burn the building down.
I get it, but they look like they were going to throw them. I mean, I don't understand what ridiculous.
Still, they showed up and then just like took the hay out of the front yard.
I
was
know.
like, what were you guys planning?
That was a weird move. Yes.
All right, we're going to go commit a huge murder, but we'll just pick up supplies on the way,
Right. If they had showed up with like farm implements, that would have been I don't know. I guess it would have made more sense.
Yeah, we need to see like some like hand tools and stuff.
Yeah, like a sickle
like
or
a pitchfork.
Yeah,
man,
right.
that could do some damage to an alien kid.
Of course.
So,
of course.
It's great though. I love what happens here because I knew obviously from the get-go these guys were going to get what's coming to them.
They were no match.
They were not going to hurt these kids.
Right.
These drunken assholes. Yeah, right.
No way.
So they get in the front yard. There's like the guy leading the charge in the front. He's holding that torch, and David just like does the eyeballs at him. And the torch drops to his feet, and he lights himself on fire. And we just see this guy standing there with the flames flickering in front of his face. It's an obvious, like, effect. He's not really on fire. Like, the flames are, like, near the camera, and he's behind. So, but, like, you just see him getting lit up, and he's like, ah! But he can't move because David's got him in some kind of mind trance.
Right.
He's just burning to death in the front yard.
And the other guys, the rest of the mob, they haven't been cursed yet.
Yeah, right. They have to watch it.
They have to just watch this one guy do it.
And this is obviously a tactical move by David, right? Like I'm going to do it to the one guy, and you guys watch and learn. Don't come at us, bro.
Fantastic. Fantastic. That's like, it's even humane.
He reveals later to his father, like, I had to do it so that you would learn.
Yeah.
The guy survived, he even says. We didn't kill him.
Right.
So, okay.
Woo. Yeah.
But it's a great scene. And it makes David pretty terrifying, too. Like, and all the children, too. It's like, we knew they had crazy powers, but here's just another, even more drastic display of their power.
Yeah, they have terrible power. And in this moment, it looks like nothing can stop them.
Right. And Alan has arrived to the scene for some reason. I don't know why. I don't remember, but he goes in and he's like, I need to talk to David. And all the kids surround Alan, which is really unsettling. They just like surround this dude and
they envelop him.
Yeah, like he's covered with these kids. And
He's covered with the kids. That's true.
and, like, David reveals that he knows that they're worried about what happened in Russia. And that they know they're going to do something about it. And they must survive, and they're going to do what they have to do to survive. It's pretty something, dude.
It's
pretty
awesome.
Something is a weird phrase for me to say.
We've said a lot of weird phrases on this show. We've talked about, like, we've been dirtier than we've ever have been.
That's
probably.
true.
Yes.
We've been pretty nasty on
That's
this
true,
one.
right.
Wow. But he tells them, like, you have to be taught to leave us alone.
Yeah.
And I think they eyeball him and paralyze him. Like, he doesn't get hurt, but like we cut to him like in a bed.
He's in a sick bed after his encounter.
Yeah.
And I mean, God only knows what they did. They probably fried his brain. He's probably like, in a vegetative state
man,
now.
yeah.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
But I love when he's there and like Anthea and the doctor and Gordon are there like tending to him, and David just shows up.
Dude, they're at the house. They're at their
Yes.
house, right?
Yes.
And so like I think the mother goes down to do something, and David is just standing in the living room.
Yeah.
And as she goes in and opens the door and walks in, he's just standing there looking at her. It is quite a startling moment.
I know.
Like, it's not like a big jump scare type thing, but it's like, oh shit, he's here.
I know, because this
ambassador has arrived.
Yes, and this omniscient, godlike, kid who we're no match for.
Yeah.
And when he starts talking to Gordon about, what happened, and he tells Gordon, you need to make some arrangements for us to get out of here. We need safe passage away from this village, and we need to be where no one can get us, and we're going to continue our work. And they're going to evolve.
Yeah.
And, probably populate the rest of England with their seed once they're big enough to do so.
Yeah.
And,
Dude, it's something. He says, we'll soon be at the stage where we can form new colonies.
Yeah.
No child will speak like that. This alien dude is like gonna take over the earth, man.
And
but he's kind of pleading to his father.
Yeah.
We need your help. Get us out of here.
Right.
I guess they're hoping to play on his emotions, right? Like, I'm his son. He doesn't want harm to come to me.
Yes.
He will help us. That's the hope.
It's a good move. It's a smart move. And earlier we saw Gordon like staring at the brick wall behind the mantelpiece, and making like specific note of it. Brick wall, he kept saying. You know?
Something about like their minds are like a brick wall, or something like that. You know? But yeah, David is, come to our house on Friday with your plan.
Yeah.
Let us know. Because he's supposed to go there every Wednesday and Friday for their lessons, I guess.
Yes.
And, man, if you had 1 year, you better be there every day, Gordon.
I can't believe he just like
what is he
part-time job, dude. I mean, this is everything.
Is he podcasting on the
world
other days?
hangs in the balance.
I know, right? You just convinced the world powers to let you have 1 year to save the world.
God damn it.
And you're doing weekends. Come on, man.
Oh, that sucks.
What else is he doing?
Oh, man. Nothing's more important than this, Gordon.
Pretty funny, man. So, yeah, he's got to have plans by Friday night. And we cut to Friday, and he's talking to Alan and Anthea, and he's like, they have to go to London for some reason. I guess they're meeting up with the head council or something again. And
right, the home secretary.
Gordon's not going to be there. He has to go see the children and do his lesson because it's Friday. Of course, I can't leave. We've got to have the schedule, and I've got to be there. They expect me, and it's important work,
Right.
Only on Wednesdays and Fridays from 3 to 6. The rest of the time, I'm busy. So he tells Alan to take care of, Anthea while they're gone.
Yeah.
And they leave, and he immediately gets out equipment to build a time bomb from his desk. He's got dynamite, a bedside alarm clock, It's like Wile E. Coyote
Dude,
shit.
I was about to say, this is some Merry Melodies like bombs that he's building. I mean, like, it's full on like sticks of dynamite with twine around them and a clock
attached to the front. Yeah.
It rules, dude.
It's great. And I love as soon as they leave the house, he's like, all right, bomb time. And he builds this bomb and he puts it in his briefcase and then, closes it up, goes out the door. Time to teach these kids their lesson.
Yes. He eventually makes it over to their house,
Yeah.
and like he walks into the area where they have their lessons, and they're like, "Whoa, what are you going to teach us today, Father?" And then they start to try to read his mind,
Mm-hmm.
and David says, "You're thinking of a brick wall."
Yeah. Because what he's saying is like something about the lesson, but you can tell George Sanders' performance, you can tell like through his body language. He's speaking one thing, but he's thinking something else,
Yes.
which is great. Yeah, he's thinking about the brick wall.
Right.
Because he doesn't want them to know he's got a bomb in that bag.
Yes, and his thought of the brick wall is so intense, and he's so anguished. It kind of awakens something in the kids because they've never had this happen to them where someone's thoughts are only of one thing and they can't penetrate it.
Yeah.
And so they're just looking at this brick wall in his head, and there's brick wall, and he keeps repeating it to himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he just has to hold them on this thought
Right. And
long enough for the bomb to go off.
And I love how it is presented on the screen because we get a close-up of George Sanders' face as he's like going brick wall,
Uh-huh.
and it superimposes a brick wall over the screen, so it's his face and a big brick wall.
Yeah.
And as the kids are trying to penetrate the wall, like we keep cutting to their like eyeballs, trying to laser through it and stuff.
Yes.
And the brick wall with George Sanders' face, the wall is like cracking and starting to break as these kids are getting through.
Right.
They're trying to get through. It's a really cool representation of it because that's his mind.
I know.
Right?
Yeah, it's a great visualization of like what this all means.
So eventually, I guess the wall cracks enough and all the kids at the same time look at the briefcase and then boom.
Yep.
The building goes up.
And like the explosion happens, there's like maybe a cutaway and then another quick shot, and then we see Anthea and Alan in the car, and Anthea knows what's happening, and then very abruptly, the end.
Right. The house is on fire and we see the eyeballs are like floating in the air.
Yes.
And they all zoom at the camera. The end.
Yes. Now, even though I can appreciate a movie in 1960 being brave enough to have a tragic ending like this, I still don't like it very much because I think that these actions are out of character for Gordon, as we discussed earlier. He understood the children, and he knew that they had the potential to make a better world for all of us. So for him to sacrifice himself in order to murder them just doesn't make very much sense to me. And also, like I said earlier, I think you can make an argument that the children are the protagonists here.
Yeah.
They never harm anyone that didn't provoke them, and they want to reshape society based on logic and reason, and that's very admirable. It's something that we're clamoring for all the time. We expect this kind of like thinking from our leadership, and we never get it.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I do like the ending a lot, actually.
Do you?
But I do agree
Okay.
to a point that he does. It is kind of out of character that he would do that.
Yes.
Because the whole time he has been championing the kids.
Right.
Wanting to help them. But I guess at some point that must have changed. Like maybe, I don't know, when Alan got hospitalized and he realized maybe he realized it's hopeless. We didn't get enough to see he changed,
Yes.
right? Like it wasn't really an earned action for that character.
Right. The whole thing with Alan, I mean, yeah, they did harm him, and that was like, and I could see why Gordon would find that wrong.
What needed to happen, I think, could have helped more is if maybe Anthea was threatened or even murdered.
Yeah, if
you
like
know?
Anthea and Alan were killed.
Then that could drive the change that was needed for
Yes.
him to sacrifice himself to save the world.
Right.
Yeah, that definitely would have made it a lot better.
Yes.
So I still like it.
Yeah.
It is very abrupt because there's nothing else. That's it. Like,
Right.
And I don't mind an abrupt ending or a tragic ending. We call them the Charboneau ending for a reason.
I know, right? I knew you'd like it.
But the eyeballs fly off. Are they still alive somehow?
I mean, that's kind of them, like, the filmmakers even, like, hedging their bets there. Because, I mean, it's like, yeah, they have this explosion and a very large, prominent the end. But then there's the added effect of the eyeballs flying away. So is this entity just going to go, like, are they going to New Hampshire now?
Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows?
I know there was a sequel to the movie.
Yes.
That I've never seen. It's called Children of the Damned. Have you seen that one?
It was on the same DVD that I got from the library.
Yeah, me too.
But I didn't watch it because I didn't want to get confused.
Me too.
Okay.
I was going to watch it tonight.
Yeah.
That's funny. I've heard it's not as good.
Okay.
But I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's fine. And then John Carpenter even made a remake of this film in the 90s, which I haven't seen.
Man, okay. So when I first Googled the movie, that's the first one that came up.
Yeah.
Was John Carpenter's 1995 version. Thanks a lot, Gemini. They've left everything up to their AI slop, and that's what came up first. But, like, I finally eventually got in there, and I found out that, like, the Carpenter version was not very well received.
That's what I've heard,
Yeah. I might see it just because it's like Christopher Reeve's last movie before his accident.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes me want to see it more.
Right.
Like, and I like Carpenter a lot.
Of course.
So I'd love to see it, especially because, I mean, he remade The Thing.
Yes.
And that's excellent, right?
Yes.
Like, I'm sure he's remaking something he probably loves. It just, this one didn't turn out as good as he hoped.
Right.
That
happens.
Yeah. So, Dave, what do you think about this one? Anything else?
Well, so there was a Wild Barts Can't Be Broken is the 11th episode of season 10 of The Simpsons.
Okay.
And it features one of my favorite things they've ever done. The kids in Springfield are falsely accused of destroying public property, and the town imposes a curfew for everyone under 18. Now, one night while they're stuck in the house, Bart and Lisa see a commercial for a black and white horror movie from the 50s that was apparently so terrifying at the time that it was shelved to protect the public.
Ooh.
But now for the first time, it's going to be shown in theaters. The movie is called The Bloodening.
Yeah.
And it's essentially Village of the Damned.
That's awesome.
Yes. Dude, and once the trailer is over that they watch, like Bart and Lisa call all their friends and they make this plan to break curfew and go see the movie at the drive-in. And what we see of The Bloodening is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, the animation is great, and the voice actors perfectly capture the Martin Stevens voice. But it's like all the kids are talking. And like when they read the adults' thoughts, they're like saying, stuff like, you've been Rogering the fishwife and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
And then they force them all to like, hit each other with pitchforks and it's phenomenal.
The Bloodening.
Yes, The Bloodening, dude. And like before the movie can end and, George Sanders kills them all, the cops raid the drive-in and bust the Springfield kids for breaking curfew. But what they saw of the movie inspires them to start a pirate radio show where they divulge all their asshole parents' secrets.
Okay.
And, dude, whenever I think of Village of the Damned, I'm really thinking about The Bloodening.
Okay.
Because I just
That's
saw that
cool,
episode
man.
of The Simpsons so many times. And as I watched The Village of the Damned for our show, I kept thinking of moments from the parody. And more than once I had to stop myself because that's not really the movie. But it's still a lot of fun.
That's awesome, man.
Yes.
The Simpsons, man, when they're on, they're on.
I know. That's right. There was nothing better.
That's awesome. So, would you recommend this movie?
Yeah, I'd recommend Village of the Damned. I think it's a good time.
I agree. I think it's excellent. I mean, everyone should watch this. Watch The Bloodening and then watch Village of the Damned.
Yes, please, everybody, check out The Bloodening if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, and let us know your opinion on the Carpenter version of this film if you got one there. So that wraps things up. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to the show anywhere you get your podcasts. Rate it, review it, and most of all, share it. That gets more dudes listening to the dudes. And you go to dudesonmovies.com and find anything you need right there.
Yep, and we're on Facebook, Blue Sky, TikTok, and Instagram. Look for Dudes on Movies. And our email address is dudesonmovies@gmail.com.
That's right. And Dave, we have a question of the week. What is the question of the week?
What are the scariest movies involving children?
Ooh, there's lots to choose from, everyone.
That's
so
right.
Let us know. And stay tuned next week when we discuss 1987's Blood Rage, directed by John Grismer and starring Louise Lasser and Mark Soper. So until next week, I'm your dude Scott.
I'm your dude Dave.
And we'll see